Well, hello there, everyone. How are you doing? I am Kristi. It is Sunday, and that means it's time for Social Science Sunday. It's a new year. I'm going to move my camera a bit. New look. I am trying some things out. I'm trying to upgrade. And so, yeah, we're going to start off with some fun stuff in 2022. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. Back from 2 weeks of vacation. Looks like the audio's coming through. I don't have you guys up on screen yet, and I am very close to the mic these days, so I might have to rearrange this setup, but I've got like a whole new thing going on, which I'm excited to show you guys. Yeah, so I think I'll just, I don't know, I don't know where to pop myself. So let me just check the chat and say hi to some of the people who have just are joining us today. Also check to see if y'all can actually hear this. So let me pop the chat out, put it in the window so I can see y'all. I had a good holidays, by the way, and yeah, time to get back to work. So today, what I want to talk about is, so for 2022, I want to try to lean in, as they would say, to the whole social science thing. It seems to be what people like about what I bring, right? So I'm going to lean into that a little bit. And new microphone. I got an Elgato. Ooh, it's my investment. So I'm going to finish my thought. So I want to try to focus on like a social science topic or something within the social sciences and just kind of link that up. So to say hello, and then I'll talk about my mic. Sibwolf, good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. Trans Gamer Girl, looking forward to seeing you later. Who else is in there? Michael Mistaken, thank you for stopping by. Also, DN Fan, again, it's good to see you. It's so nice to see everyone. Wrong channel. A to Decay, Eggberry, you're both here. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think that's it for now. Oh, that's my top chat. I've just switched to my live chat. That would also make sure I don't miss anybody. All right. Why is my YouTube showing me that I am not showing up? Can y'all see me? The live stream will start soon. Hold on a second. Can you guys give me a check to say YouTube doesn't look like it's transitioning at all? All right, let me just check because this is not working. Can y'all see me? Hey, I have to type this out because I did a whole like 20-minute show once. Oh, okay. Weird. Oh, I must have just paused it or something on the stream. Okay. Yeah, I'll show you because if you can see here, it's showing me that this is on, which is like freaking me out. Oh, there it is. Okay. Techno fear. Boomer moment. All right. Okay. Yeah, so I got a new mic. My Snowball. I had a Snowball for about 5 years. And with the demands on like more media channels coming in with all that kind of, like being on with Kevin and him having an audio at one level and me having audio. Now that it was just getting, more and more complicated. So I just upped my game. And I'm glad you can say thank you for confirming. I was getting so nervous. All right, let's talk about what we're here to talk about, which is James Lindsay. So I'm going to go to my profile here, go to my media and find it. But the theme for the day, what we're going to talk about in terms of social science is right, here's the louder version. We're not going to watch it right now. But I want to talk about the concept of empirical assertions, right? Because this is really important to have a good grasp on when you're doing social science, right? You need to have a basic kind of grasp. So I don't know, maybe I can bring up like a PowerPoint. I think I'll bring up a PowerPoint. It might be easier just to take a couple notes on. All right, so in the social sciences, we have our approaches, we look to the world, right? And we study people. Those are the two things that would characterize social science. And within that framework, quite a lot of disciplines would be included, right? I have to type here. I'm not going to find PowerPoint for some random reason, not easily, so I'm going to have to type it in. But, you have everything from economics to sociology, psychology, social psychology. I think there is an extent to which anthropology can be linked to the social sciences, but it's more, I think, on the humanities side. Although with the use of carbon dating and other things, I think it's becoming increasingly more scientific in nature, but I'm not quite sure where they fall on the whole social science or humanities. I'd have to look. But the thing that kind of distinguishes social sciences from the humanities is that we adhere to, try to adhere to the scientific method in our approaches so that we have an empirical or an observable basis for our claims. Everything has to come, that is sort of like how our validity is shared, is through observations. And if you don't have an observation or you can't back up your claim about how the world is, then you're not doing a good, you're not going to check the box on empirical observations. I'm trying to multitask here, but come on, minimize this. Thank you. And bring this PowerPoint window over here. I just want to write some words up here. Not that we're going to spend too much time typing this out. I need a dark background, though, because I despise white backgrounds. I'm a big believer, especially online, of using dark backgrounds. That's nice. Okay, all right, whatever, that's fine. We're going to add a new slide here. New slide. By the way, if y'all talking, I can't see. No, that's a different window. I need a new slide. No! No, what are you doing? I'm an idiot. All right, so empirical claims. What characterizes an empirical claim from other kinds of assertions? Right. The big division, I think most people would recognize, is the division between, oh, that's really harsh on my face, isn't it? Empirical and normative. Empirical is what exists, and normative is what you think the world ought to be. These are sometimes interlinked. You can make a normative claim and look to an empirical observation in order to. We'll do coffee. How about that? We'll do coffee this morning. Make an empirical oh no, these are really ugly. Make an empirical observation to back up our normative claim, right? But you can't, well, there's some arguments about this, but generally, good practice is you can't derive ought from is. You can't say, look, in nature, this thing exists, therefore, we should be like this in our societies. Right? This is how oftentimes people who are bigoted will justify oppression is, well, they'll say like, oh, well, in nature, it doesn't work like that. Well, but we aren't animals. We are animals, but we are thinking animals. And so we're not bound by the limitations of nature. So let's talk a little bit about like empirical, because we're going to talk about James' empirical assertion here. And there's a core one that he makes even at the start that I want to get assertions. All right. Okay. Let me put up another word here. And normative assertions. And then you get, of course, opinions, right? Opinions are, how do you distinguish? So I would say here, an empirical assertion is you're describing a state of the world that anyone who would go and look up that information, any reasonably, person could reasonably come to the same conclusion. The number of planets, right? Like some people can say that Pluto is a planet, and other people will say Pluto is not a planet. But reasonable people can disagree on the categorization of Pluto, but they're not going to disagree that there is a big rock out there, right? So whatever you name it, we can all kind of agree that things exist in the external world. Normative assertions are have a moral component. They are saying what something ought or should be like. There's a judgment, there's an evaluation, there's a subjective preference there. Now, your opinion, I would say, is a little bit different from either of those two things. You have an opinion about things, but they can not necessarily be normative in terms of like a moral good or whatever. Like I can think the Packers are the greatest football team ever. Like there's no normative, there's no morality associated with that claim. It's just my opinion. I'm not asserting, I might be saying, yes, they're the best, but I'm not saying morally we should all be like you. So I think we can think about information in multiple ways. And so when we are online and we're talking with other people who make assertions, I find it's really handy to be able to clarify what kind of assertion they're making, and especially if it's an empirical assertion, to ask them to show me the evidence. If I am unfamiliar with the evidence for their claim, and I think that it's a little bit dodgy, I don't think that's exactly how the world works. Like, okay, that's possible, but I will oftentimes ask people to, like, show me the evidence. And whatever you think of Christopher Hitchens, and if you don't like him, that's fine, I don't care. I would say that his razor is incredibly powerful when it comes to cutting through people's assertions as to whether or not it's an empirical assertion or like a normative claim. So if someone has an opinion, I think America should be more democratic, that's normative. Come on, why are you doing this? Yeah, why can't I get, is this thing on? Why are you not letting me put font stuff in here? Ugh, do you know how much, there we go. I hate using technology live. So the most, I think it's quite a useful way to identify an empirical claim. And see, even this, I'm so focused on, I am so convinced by the whole avoid death by PowerPoint about how fonts work in PowerPoint. It's super, super terrible. Yeah, let's go 60. We want this big. We want this big for old people like me, whose eyes are going. That might be a bit too big. That might be ridiculously big. So let's back that up to about, yeah. Right. Hitchens' razor is that which can be asserted without a space. Evidence can be dismissed without evidence. This is going to be important for when we look at James, like one of the first things James, what comes out his mouth, right? So this is basically a challenge to empirical assertions. Thing is people can have, reasonable people can disagree on evidence, right? But evidence is like required. Someone makes an empirical claim and they can't back it up with a link to their source, whether that's, an article that's reviewing a study or a report or whatever else, I just say it's dismissed. You can say that, but I don't have to believe you. And I think a lot of times people assume their empirical assertions will be taken at face value. And my recommendation to y'all is to not. I think it should be normal practice in Twitter situations for people who make empirical claims, say, well, can I see the source for that? Give me your link. And a source does not count. I'm just going to put this down here. Two things I find a lot online. Two things that are not evidence is just a screenshot with no source data listed, no data source, I'll call it. I was typing well before. Now all my fingers aren't working anymore. Data source, right? And sometimes you'll get people who will just tactically crop something out of an entire website, and then they'll go, "Oh, here's the thing for you," but not give you the link to the website, or they don't include the source of the data in the picture that they're showing you, or the data source isn't listed in the picture of the graph, even scarier, because all tables and charts need their sources listed unless they're just describing the same data set that they've announced over and over, right? So screenshot with not evidence. Here, I'll just put this one here. Not evidence. Because aren't you supposed to have 2 bullet points? All right. Screenshot with no data source. A picture in and of itself is not evidence. And the other thing that people do, have you ever come across this? When people just post a link to an entire like website or an entire federal document to and they go, oh yeah, just read this. I'm like, no. Like, this, so it's not enough to, like when you're doing a paper or something, you have to cite page numbers if you're citing specific claims for a reason. And that's because I shouldn't, it's not my job as the reader to go to your source and read through the source you provided me, looking for what I think you think is the basis for your assertion. People do this all the time. Like, boom, like there's put a big spam link up there. And I was like, I'm not going to read this to find out what I think you think you're talking about. You're at the website, highlight it. Like show me like what line it's on, whatever else. All right, so evidence is required. Two things that aren't evidence is a screenshot with no data source, also posting an entire website. The amount of misidentified FOMOs, that's right. Now, in terms of normative assertions, I mean, that's just kind of a back and forth. There are, some people can construct a normative argument using other normative claims, using anecdotal evidence, using empirical data, but I'm not kind of interested in that part of it right now. I want to do the foundations of what is good evidence, because what I find generally is that people who attack CRT are highly normative in their approach and incredibly dismissive, or they tend to cover up the empirical realities of the world they want to talk about. So they go normative. Oh, our kids shouldn't be made to feel bad about slavery, which is code for white kids, right? Because why would, like, for instance, kids who are black feel, I mean, they might be disgusted, but in terms of, their ancestors, their family, their heritage, their people, people who came before them in their lineage came out of oppression. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's not the we need to protect. It's very much we need to protect the white kids. Let's just be honest, right? And that's what we're going to kind of look at how James Lindsay obfuscates, because he starts off his Gish Gallop with an assertion about what he thinks the world is like, but then he just drops that and moves on. So first, I wanted to disambiguate. Kids should feel. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to put that on there. We want to disambiguate between empirical and normative assertions. And Egg, I do agree. I think kids should, like, when you read about a genocide, you should, like, your heart should break. When you read about oppression, your heart should break. And I think, the biggest problem is there are people who still live on plantations today, right? Who there are working plantations. There are families whose wealth was built on slave labor. And talking about that makes them feel uncomfortable because they want to feel bad about their money, right? But when people are oppressed, we should side for the oppressed, and we should be angry at the oppressors. But for the white community or white culture in America, haven't really reconciled that yet. White culture has heretofore resisted any serious attempts to really acknowledge, in my opinion, the suffering and the inhumanity and the crimes against humanity that people committed, that white Americans committed in order to get rich. But I don't want to get on a rant. All right, so get empirical and normative assertions. So, I guess I didn't realize this was going to need a comma. So, here you go. Assertions, comma, and opinions? No, maybe not. I'll put a comma there. Just kind of like disambiguate these concepts. All right, let's have a look at what a Gish Gallop is too, just to get everybody on the same page. And if you know what this is already, I don't mean to patronize you. Not my intention. My intention is just to make sure that we're all working with the same understanding, language, concepts, and applications. So a Gish Gallop. I think there are some good examples of Gish Gallops we can have a look at in order to really prep ourselves for what James Lindsay does here. I think there's some videos. Okay. Classic example of a Gish Gallop, a 4-minute video. That's a little bit much. I saw a really funny one about a debate here. Okay, let's go to YouTube and see what we can find. By the way, how do you guys like my setup? I'll just natter on for that while I multitask here. I've got my black curtain background. I've also bought another velvet one to really blend in. And yeah, so I'm working on this for the new look for the channel. How very exciting, right? Okay. I think I did find a pretty funny Gish Gallop video. It is nice to see your face. Thank you for saying it's nice to see your face. Oh, that's me. Oh, and there's my Bitcoin liquidation watch. Okay. Gish. And I was watching some Gallivant. I'm like really getting back into Gallivant this week. So I'm hoping to enjoy some more. Debate basics, Gish Gallop, how to win an argument. 3-minute video. Okay. Oh, this looks good. Gish Gallop, rapid fire. Yeah. What's 1.2, 1 minute 12? That looks pretty good. That is the thing Ben Shapiro does. Right, so, oh yeah, I guess we should define what it is. Just again, get everybody on the same page. I was so worried about the tech. I was not thinking about a definition. Gish Gallop is named after a creationist, which I didn't know until today, but makes so much sense. Makes so much sense now. I'm going to check my lighting a little bit just to soften that on the side. Yeah, and then I can tip this. So, hey, how y'all doing? Hey. Goth vibes, yeah. I also decided to go with my black velvet tracksuity thing as well. I'm looking into the side because I have to look to where my screen is on camera. And I think I'm just going to go right on after this recording and do the 2 Trailer Trash or Treasure episodes on, there's 2 Labyrinth that I'm going to watch after this. But anyway, let's get back. Gish Gallop is when somebody argues by hurling as many different half-truths, no-truths in a very short space of time so that their opponent cannot hope to combat each point in time. In debate situations, I should set that up. People have so much time to give an argument and then so much time to respond. And the Gish Gallop, you throw everything you can in the time that you have, and we all know it takes, like, what is the factor of time it takes to explain why something is BS as opposed to just stating BS? And with a Gish Gallop, you kind of have to pick and choose, but because you can't refute all of their BS in the same amount of time that they spent to spew it, people might have assertions that are just left unrefuted. So Gish Gallop is a way to overwhelm anyone who wants to do it, like an actual honest debate by hiding the flaws of your arguments inside just an avalanche of BS. So okay, all of these things, this is all very strange. Oh, you know what? I think now this audio is coming. Yes, it's coming out of my new mic setup. So I'm going to check to make sure that y'all can hear this. I'll play like 15 seconds and see if y'all can hear it. Okay, so here we go.
The Gish Gallop is a debate tactic where you overwhelm your conversation partner with a barrage of half-truths and misleading arguments.
All right. How is that working out for everyone? I know it's lagged, so before I go on, I will pause to make sure y'all can hear and that it is at an acceptable volume. I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out. No one's complaining. Yes! All right. I'm so excited. My new tech is working out. It's so very exciting. Oh, except hold on a second. All right. I needed to change from my audio to your audio, or my mic. It doesn't matter. All right, let's watch a summary of the Gish Gallop.
In rapid succession. The Gish Gallop exploits the fact that it's easier and less time-consuming to produce a flurry of lies than it is to refute each of those lies one by one. And in the confines of most interviews, it's practically impossible.
Hold on, I'm having twitchy problems. I had this problem earlier today, and I think it's connection. Okay, that should be better. I noticed that it was part of the reason I was delayed was because my camera kept flashing. Yeah, and so I had to I'll just secured all of the connections. Hopefully that'll sort it out.
Possible. And even if you refute 99 out of 100 arguments, the Gish Galloper can
I am not sure. Yeah. Audio okay, but I'm glitching. All right. Okay. There's not much I can do about that. What I can do, I guess, is hide myself during this. Maybe. I will take myself off. Where's my desktop music? Mix USB live. All right, I'll do that while this is playing so you don't see me glitching in the background.
Always point to the
Yeah, maybe it would help to turn the quality. No, it's down to 480p. That ain't it.
one argument you didn't and claim victory. To an untrained audience, the volume and rapidity of information will make the Gish Galloper seem authoritative. But to a savvy crowd, the tactic is nakedly dishonest. In fact, it's considered so disingenuous that in formal debates, judges limit the number of points a debater can raise to prevent just this problem. The thing is, all of us have been guilty of a watered-down version of this tactic. If you've ever found yourself speaking in heated paragraphs about your favorite political issue, you've likely bombarded your listeners with more points than they can keep track of. Remember, conversations work best when points are kept as succinct as possible, and everyone can follow the plot.
Oh, I thought they were going to actually show an example. Sort of upset. Not upset, but disappointed. Alrighty-dighty-dighty. And let's see if we can actually get an example. No, I want an example of a Gish Gallop.
The Gish Gallop is a debate tactic.
Yeah, I'm really glitching out badly, aren't I? Okay, that's something. Again, every time I do something new, there's a cascading thing of problems. Right. That I end up having to fix. Now, I saw this really funny video of a guy at a debate just running through a Gish Gallop, and sadly, I can't find it now. If I could, I'll just want to do one more search. Nah, ain't got any new luck there. All right, so I will close this up. Maybe this won't be so bad if I close a few things out. All right, I'll keep an eye on the glitch. All right, Pomama said, I don't know how you I saw the glitches on the OBS, so I know it's coming through. I might just be overwhelming this system with all of the things that I'm running off of it. I'm not going to drop the quality of the webcam. Absolutely not. I worked really hard to do these settings. Oh, actually, on my profile, I don't know which version of the profile I'm using. I might be using my recording profile. That might be the problem. I think I might have forgotten to switch to stream quality, but maybe not. I don't know. There's so many things. All right. Let's stay focused, people. All right, so we're going to look at James do a Gish Gallop, and at the end of it, we're going to come back and try to break it down a little bit. Yeah, maybe you were making coffee and you just turned away, which, congrats, good timing on turning away from my glitch. So, yeah, I also re-edited this to make it much louder, so I don't know how it's going to come through. I think I brought it down and upped it in my Power Director software 200%, and then I took that video and I upped that again 200%, so that's the most I can do. But let's listen to a James Gish Gallop.
Please welcome co-author.
I can see the glitch. I can see it. It's already going. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I really don't want to make anyone ill with a fit, an epileptic fit. So, okay.
Book, Cynical Theories, James Lindsay. James, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, Dr. Phil.
You say this should be an artifact. We should just put this behind us.
I do not believe the critical race theory tenet that says that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in our society, and if we don't dredge up a race consciousness, that we can't get over it. I think this is actually a lie. It's very annoying to me to listen to the back and forth here. In fact, I'm glad to be here to bring some knowledge. I take a lot of umbrage with the idea that we're going to talk about should we have critical race theory, this or that, because it's talking about racism or history, when the fact of the matter is it's not are we, it's how are we. And I am shocked and appalled to hear the defensive side for critical race theory misrepresented this way, but they don't explain, for example, why the first paper called Florida Critical Race Theory of Education by Gloria Lads and Billings was published in 1995. They don't explain why Richard Delgado's 2001 book explains on page 5, for example, that it rapidly spread from law to other disciplines, especially education. They don't explain also, in the exact same situation, that Gloria Lads and Billings is one of the chief authors of a ed equity in Virginia that's bringing critical race theory into all of the state schools of Virginia right now.
You must breathe through your ears because you.
All right, I will reappear like magic on your screen. Hiya, I'm back. Whew. Whew, whew. So what's that bigzebra.com? Hi, by the way. Thanks for stopping by. Nia Ripshaft, did I call you out before? Thank you for stopping by. And bop boop. So bigzebra.com says, hey, Kristi, I saw a hilarious meme made by @ScienceMel, science educator, compared Lindsay to the Warner Brothers Tasmanian Devil. Yes. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. Hold on one second. I don't want you guys to hear me burp. All right. Whew. So much nonsense going on coming out of James's mouth. All right, let's start. Let's just go back because we haven't even gone through the second part of it. Bring some knowledge, yeah. Let's just talk about the first thing he said, because this is what made me really want to dig into this different distinction between empirical and normative assertions, and also opinions, right? What he says here is really key. And, you know, James is trained as a mathematician. And in maths, it's a rationalist epistemology. They don't need to look to the world to verify their mathematics. There's an inherent logic of mathematics that you can work out by doing it. You know, so if you have an algebraic equation and you plug in numbers, that works on a different truth. Like, the truths of mathematics are that they're tautological, that they're basically two ways of describing different things on the different sides of the equation, right? And we use the world to verify it, but that's, mathematics has proofs, right? And empirical assertions are others. All right, so James, I don't know, he makes a lot of claims about, you know, having read books. And reading books is good, but understanding them is better. All right, so let's go back to his first assertions. I'm getting down my own rabbit hole here.
In fact, we should just put this behind us.
I'm glitching again. Sorry, let me minimize or empty myself, invisible myself.
I do not believe the critical race theory tenet that says that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in our society, and if we don't dredge up a race consciousness, that we can't get over it.
All right, so and I'm back right now. Da 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 da. Okay, I've already forgotten it, but okay. So, he rejects the idea. He rejects the tenet of critical race theory that racism. Oh, can I back? I can't back up on this. I'm just gonna have to glitch out, y'all. Sorry, I can't keep swapping between. So, just sorry for the glitches for the moment.
I think this is actually a lot.
Wow, that's really awful. I wonder if there's anything I can do to help that. I don't think so. Maybe it's because of the number of programs. I'll have to try trying a different USB port next time. So again, I don't want to make anyone sick. I don't want to like send anyone who has photosensitivities off. So I'm going to turn this off.
I believe the critical race theory tenet that says that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in our society.
Okay, he doesn't believe the critical race theory tenet that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in our society. That's not an opinion. It's also not a normative claim. It's an empirical one, right? And that is, whether or not James believes it is irrelevant. You know, another way that this was put to me by one of my colleagues, John Bartle, was nobody cares what you think, only what you can demonstrate. And when it comes to social science, end of the day, like that's what gets papers published. It's not you don't get opinion pieces. You might get like a letter to the editor or journal or something, kind of like 20th anniversary of why this political scientist was a great person and why we should remember her or whatever. But you're not going to get published in a political science journal with what you think or what you believe. Racism is the normal state of American society. That's like not debatable. It was the normal state in America's history. It's still the normal state now because we've never properly dealt with that history. So James saying, I don't believe an empirical statement, when he's saying, I don't believe the critical race theory tenet that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in American society, he might as well be saying, I don't believe that, like the people landed in the New World to invade and take it over in whatever it was, the 1660, whatever project. Oh God, I feel bad now. 1619, right? 1619 project? Yeah. I think it was 1619 project. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm also not on screen anymore. Oh, this is really complicated. There is a lot to do with this. I have to sort this out. This is going to be a short session because first time back, new tech. Come on. Me today. Why is the one on my thing not working? Yeah, 1619. That was a lot of stress for one verification because I care about facts. Yeah, 1619. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you having my back. It doesn't matter that James his belief is irrelevant. It really doesn't matter. Racism is the ordinary state of affairs in American society. That's just indisputable. And you can say, oh, well, we passed laws to stop that. Yeah, but the claim isn't that, American laws are still racist. We're talking about society. And the way that society functions is informed by its laws. It is not determined by its laws. Making racism in job hiring illegal doesn't end racism in job hiring discrimination. What it provides is people who are wronged have to pay for a legal solution. Right? You have the ability to sue the employer for not hiring you, provided you have the funds to sue them, right? So a legal framework for justice is in and of itself not enough to provide justice. In order to provide justice, you need a society that embodies and incorporates and reproduces that sort of justice. Do we have more of that now than in the past? Undoubtedly. Is that sufficient to call our society not racist? Because, some people of color have been able to be successful, and, some white people aren't actively racist and are actively anti-racist. Does that mean racism is over? Of course not. Racism is still the ordinary state of affairs in America. And you can just look at the Ahmaud Arbery case to see that racism is the natural state of affairs. So it annoys me so much that, you've got a white man in James who does not experience the white supremacist racism that people of color in America experience, because his whiteness protects him from those types of attacks and discrimination and being shunned by certain white people. And so he is saying, because I don't experience racism that's not aimed at me, I don't believe it exists. And the right answer to that is nobody cares what you think, only when you can demonstrate, James. Can you demonstrate that there aren't differences in outcomes in American society that are explained by differences in ethnic backgrounds and ethnicity categories, right? You can always come back, Sib. It's fine. Come back and just like pause the video, go get a bagel, and then hit play when you get back. And I'll probably be done with the show. I do need a producer. I have like run a lot. Let me finish this point, and then I'll go on about that. But and this is the kind of thing that I think is helpful when you're doing Twitter debates, or when you're debating people on Facebook or wherever else, right? And there's a lot of words being flown back and flying back and forth. Get back to fundamentals. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, right? That is a normative claim, right? But it is a reasonable normative claim that people understand why that's the case, right? And so when it comes to quality of evidence, this is where the normativity comes in, where the value system comes in. My values state that in order for something to, for me to consider it a valid empirical assertion, I need to be able to know where it comes from. And I need to be able to have the possibility of investigating that assertion myself, and also knowing enough about what's being asserted to look up evidence to see if that's the consensus view, if that's a minority view, if that's a recent view, an old view, whatever else. All right. Right, so that was the first part of his sentence. Just the first part of his sentence like threw me, and it made it difficult for me to hear the rest of it. But yes, him saying that he doesn't believe that racism is the normal state of affairs in America is just like, so what, white man? Like no one's gonna believe you. Like no one cares about your opinion. Like his opinion versus reality. I'm gonna go with reality. And especially given the fact that he doesn't experience the racism that he wants to deny the existence of, it seems to me that what he's doing is normalizing the current level of racism we have now on the grounds as it's better than it was, that it's better now than it used to be. In the past we were racist, but things are better now, and so we can just say we're not racist. Okay, I'm gonna go on with the next section, but first, of course, I wonder if I could... Yeah, I can just swap between these. All right, hold on one second. Let me adjust my OBS. And on that point, I will say, I do need a producer. So, when I set up for these shows, I've got, my lighting set up. And normally I would have a fixed light here, but I ran out of time. I've got my sound. I've got 3 screens that I'm running, setting up my camera, setting up my physical space, getting the stuff ready. I could run a television station at this point, if I'm honest. Okay, let me swap then between these two. Hey, that works so... See, look at that. That works so much better than trying to turn the camera on and off. So, I need to put my headphones on too. Sorry, y'all. All right, getting there.
And if we don't dredge up a race consciousness, that we can't get over it.
Okay, so next part of his assertion is if we don't dredge up a race consciousness, we can't get over it. This is an opinion, right? This, again, like his last thing, is an opinion. And so I'm going to counter that by saying the biggest problem as a white person who grew up in white culture in white-dominated America is what kept me from really seeing the fact that I needed to be anti-racist was a lack of race consciousness. There's a whole thing about the narrative of white racial goodness that I think comes out of the the master mentality. How do you own people and still think you're a good person? Because you're not, right? But people want to think they're good. And so they want to divorce torture, genocide, horrific crimes against humanity against that white Americans, including the founders, did to Black Americans in order to make themselves feel better about them. So WTG. Way to go. Okay, I had to like think, what is that? WTG. Right. And so there's this distancing that happens in white culture, right? White people are very aware of the evil in our past, and we aren't socialized to just own it. If anything, it's a lot of, oh, well, the founders, yeah, they made some mistakes, but we can't judge them by today's morality. Hell yeah, we can. Hell yeah, we can. Of course we can. Of course we can judge people of the former times by our morality today. Because back in the day, they were also arguing about enslaving humans. They knew it was wrong. It's not like they couldn't figure this out. They just loved money more. They just chose their ethnic identity and money over other human lives. But I'm getting on a tangent. Right? And so by compartmentalizing, oh yeah, Jefferson, he did some bad things, but he's a great man, right? The compartmentalizing part always gets minimized in white culture, right? Imagine minimizing the bad things that Ted Bundy did, right? But on a grand scale, because that's kind of what white culture has trained itself to do in order to hold two completely opposing ideas together in their minds at the same time. One, I've in the times of slavery, but even then, like carrying on, right? I've benefited from white supremacist and racist policies by my government due only to my skin color and nothing to do with the merit, my worth in terms of like my talents and what I've did. It's purely on the basis of my skin color that my ancestors got preferential treatment and I'm still a financial and social beneficiary of those things. And that's really messed up and wrong and unfair, especially with the American idea of, liberty and justice for all, but also racism. We don't have liberty and justice for all, but we don't want to talk about reparations, right? Justice, but we don't want to talk about the fact that, after black people were freed, white people just walked away. We don't want to face the ugly. And that's where a lot of this defensiveness comes in. And the way that we have to break that down is by white people modeling how to reconcile and accept and own that past with, it will always taint the founding of our country. And if we stop investing in our own goodness, being a good person is such a narrative in white culture. I'm a good person. I'm not a racist. I don't see color. I'm going to have a whole talk about how color blindness maintains the status quo. But so much of the obstacles to dealing with racism is white people's fragility and unwillingness to have difficult conversations and own the fact that they are unfairly benefit from their racial privilege in American society. So, what is a aid to the case saying, especially now we have more access to information, we understand races are not different species and POC are not biological. Yeah, there's all of the things that white people looked to justify their oppression, the lies that they spread, the framework of primitive versus civilized that they imputed on human beings. That's all racism. That doesn't exist inherently. That's, a value judgment. So yeah, absolutely. We have one narrative that says, all men are created equal. But on the other hand, we don't give people in our society, the justice that they deserve to be able to live equal. All right. So that was part one. So let's go. The race consciousness. So in some ways, what CRT is saying is, by raising our understanding and awareness of the dynamics of racism and racializing, discourses and the ways that things have been racialized by white people who run everything, right? Down to us, that the best way to perpetuate the inherent unfair status quo is to be colorblind. To not see color instantiates the current inequalities and then says that they don't exist. When you say to someone, I don't see color, what you're saying is, I don't see the oppression that is going around me every day because I don't want to. Saying I'm colorblind means I am more invested in my own white racial goodness than I am in justice for everyone, right? And this is very attractive when you don't want to do the hard work, right? I'm not a bad person. I'm not racist. I didn't own slaves. My family came over after slavery, and, they just benefited from the GI Bill that my, great-grandfather fought in, but Black Americans who fought in the war disproportionately were not benefited in the same way. Or if they did get stuff on housing, they were redlined, so they couldn't enjoy, the benefits of that. And so I actually think, in some ways, I think it's a normative assertion about race consciousness is an empirical thing, like whether or not people have it, right? There's different levels of it. But he's not making a good argument. He's just asserting his opinion that raising race consciousness, is not the way forward. And all of these things, if this next part of what James said was really unpacking his empirical evidence as to, what was his first claim? I'm already forgetting. For his empirical claim, he's like, okay, we don't have racism because these outcomes are no longer differentiated by race. We've seen, this wealth gap close in terms of people's ethnic heritage in the United States and where they come from, and, whatever. He wanted to make empirical claims, but he doesn't. He just blah. All right, let's start again. I will swap myself out, and just to get it fresh, we'll start from the beginning.
In fact, we should just put this behind us.
I do not believe the critical race theory tenet that says that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in our society, and if we don't dredge up a race consciousness, that we can't get over it. I think this is actually a lie. It's very annoying to me to listen to the back and forth.
All right, he says this is a lie. All right, well, that which can be asserted without evidence, can be dismissed without evidence. And had he spent his entire time going after this, it would probably have still been garbage. Let's be honest. But at least it would have been more coherent garbage than what he put out in this video. So thank you for the upvotes. I don't really do this on my channel very much. I don't plug myself for money because honestly, I've been doing better financially and I don't but thank you for the upvote. I appreciate it. I'm out here to get my message out, right? But I'm not good at self-promotion. So much else to do already. Okay. Now, here's where the Gish Gallop really gets going. And we'll see what his tactics are in order to, to just overwhelm us in information to the point where we don't know what his point is. Probably because he doesn't have one. But, all right.
Here, in fact, I'm glad to be here to bring some knowledge. I take a lot of umbrage with the idea that we're going to talk about should we have critical race theory, this or that, because it's talking about racism or history, when the fact of the matter is it's not are we, it's how are we. And I am shocked and appalled to hear that.
All right, so I think what James means here is, because it requires interpretation because he's not very clear. We are talking about racism in schools. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that because you can't teach American history without teaching racism. American history is the history of racism on this continent. And I just don't from the Chinese Exclusion Act to even the very first naturalization bill passed by Congress was based on ethnicity. It was exclusively for white men, for free white men. Not indentured servants. Those couldn't be citizens, apparently. It was completely racist. It was designed to be racist. It was designed to basically filter more white people in from Europe in order to take over the area. It was a classic invasion. And so you can't get away from teaching racism in American schools if you're teaching American history. You just can't, because that's our history. And what makes James mad is that he doesn't want white people to feel a moral, I want to say obligation is not the word I'm looking for, but like a moral acknowledgement of what happened, how bad it was, how it was perpetuated, and that, you're still part of that system. The scary thing about recognizing that is then you ask the question, well, what can I do? And there are, those aren't easy answers to answer because it's a big problem, but it's much better to do a little bit, to do anti-racism activism and anti-racism advocacy than it is to just go, I'm white, who cares? Which is what James does, right? Okay, back to this is where the Gish Gallop really gets going.
The defensive side for critical race theory misrepresent it this way, but they don't explain, for example, why the first paper called Florida Critical Race Theory of Education by Gloria Lads and Billings was published in 1995. They don't explain why Richard Delgado's 2001 book explains on page 5, for example, that it rapidly spread from law to other disciplines, especially education. They don't explain also, in the exact same situation, that Gloria Lads and Billings is one of the chief authors of a ed equity in Virginia that's bringing critical race theory into all of the state schools of Virginia right now.
You must breathe through your ears because you.
Okay, so I'm trying to fix my problem with my mic, or not my mic, my camera, and so I'm just going to talk now while I multitask. Because I am just that cool. I am just that cool. All right. So this Gish Gallop is really seriously designed to overwhelm you with information. It's meant to give you a whole series of facts and things, claims that allow him to sound like he knows what he's talking about when he's really, and now I can't get back to my webcam. Hold on a second. This is awful. Yeah, I think I broke things, y'all. I think I broke it. All right. What to do? All right. Sorry, I'm trying to do all this stuff on the fly, and it's not working out. I was hoping that by putting in my USB connector directly into the laptop, I could bypass the extension and therefore not get the signal interference. But that is that's not putting my OBS in its happy place. So this is a disaster. I'm probably gonna wrap this up pretty quick here. So I think my camera is completely offline now. I shouldn't do these in live stream. US live camera. No, okay, yeah, I'm back. I am back. There I am. Hey, yeah. Okay, so where was I? All right, so this Gish Gallop is really just meant to, it's like what Dr. Phil said, he's breathing through his ears. He's not trying to get you information. He's just trying to overwhelm you so that he sounds super smart and well-read, which we'll see. He's going to now go on to brag about how many books he's read rather than actually say anything, about the real world that we live in. So... Hey, oh man, what a nightmare. Okay. Definitely gonna have to fix this before I do another recording. Oh, it's 2:00 anyway, so yeah, we're almost done. All right, let's wrap this up. I think I've given you some things to think about with empirical assertions, normative assertions, opinions, and Gish Gallops. So he's gonna now try to show off and establish credibility by listing off page numbers of books he's read. Which is cool, y'all, but if no one else in the room has read the book, then no one knows what you're talking about. And you're not an authority just because you know what you say a number, a page number of what something's written on. So. Oh, sorry, here we go.
I've read the vast majority of the major works.
Sorry, I completely screwed that up. I moved things with no camera on camera. Oh, it's fun being a boomer. All right, here we go.
Race theory that have been published since 1970 to the most recent things, including, for example, in 2017, we have Alison Bailey writing a paper for Hypatia, an education paper, and she says that there's the critical thinking tradition.
So this is the kind of nonsense, he's like, oh, this person wrote in this journal article. Again, if you're not in this world, it doesn't matter. James is not thinking about his audience. He's thinking about how he can show off his big brain. And this is why he ends up looking like a fool. He doesn't make any good arguments. He makes a series of assertions that nobody knows what he's talking about. All right, back to the other screen.
But what we're doing in critical pedagogy, which critical race theory is an integral.
Okay, critical pedagogy, which is part of critical race theory, he's now talking over the heads of like 99% of the people who watch Dr. Phil. And this is what I find about James over and over again, is that he thinks that now, because he's immersed himself in the world of like authors of critical theory, especially critical race theory, that by appropriating the language of scholars and repeating it, he looks smarter. But he doesn't. Because at the end of the day, if you're using language that distances you from your audience's understanding, they're not going to be impressed. They're going to be confused, right? And so when he's talking about the use of CRT in pedagogy, I think, he's admitting that that's different. So pedagogy, of course, is like, so pedagogy is how you teach. How do people learn, right? I can get a definition, but I won't. So the idea of CRT in pedagogy, or understanding how structures of racism influence the way that students and teachers interact, how teachers discipline students, how school districts treat kids. If there is racism in schooling practices and policies, or teachers' applications of those policies, then the school system itself is driving kids, you have behavioral issues. Oh, and, so now you're going to be in a special class, or you're going to go to detention, or we're going to refer you, we're going to treat you like a bad kid. So there's a reinforcement there. And understanding how racism can shape people's perceptions in education is hugely important in order to break the cycle of teachers, basically the school to prison pipeline. That's not the same as teaching CRT in classrooms, if you see what I mean. I think CRT in pedagogy and it's understanding how racism can operate in classrooms and in administrations and in school boards and textbooks is key for us to have, liberty and justice for all. So, anyway. Let me change my screen.
Part of is from a different set of tradition called critical theory, which is neo-Marxism, which is interested in studying the
So now he's just like, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. And, he's lost everybody. That's why the audience, or the lady people on the panel, are like, this is just this amazing stream of BS.
relationships of power rather than epistemic adequacy. You can look the paper up. It's called Tracking Privilege Preserved.
By the way, I just want to point out here, he is definitely looking at his hands. He's written that on his hands. He's looked at the title because he says you can look it up, and he looks at his hands and he reads it off. Watch. Watch, watch, watch.
Epistemic adequacy. You can look the paper up. It's called Tracking Privilege Preserving Epistemic Pushback in Critical Race and...
So, fair enough. But, dude, get a pad of paper. Stick it in your pocket. You really going to write on your hand? That's... Oof.
Feminist philosophy classrooms.
That's not... And then his face is like, oh, man, I just dropped the mic on you. I just dropped it. And everyone is just, what? So, yeah, do not be impressed by silly Gish gallops. And just call them out for what they are. They're BS. Absolutely BS. If you have a good argument, you will make it. If you don't have a good argument, you'll just talk around your point in order to avoid making it. So that was it, really. Just I wanted to get a little bit deeper today into the concepts of, ooh, look how big I am. That's what he said. And she said. Who knows? That's what they said. Right. Then we get, boop, 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 boop. Oh, look at that. Isn't it nice when you organize your camera? All right, I'm going to check my setup. I will look to see what was causing the glitch and sort that out for next time. It might be the fact that I have a different profile for my stream when I record versus when I stream, and I might have forgotten to swap those over, so that might be the problem. However, I hope that you feel like you learned something today, or if not, at least you were entertained. And yeah, this is how I want to go forward in 2022 with trying to get some social science examples, ideas, or use cases and bring them in and discuss them. So if you enjoyed this, give me a like. Come back next week, Sunday. I'll be back on the Sunday live show train. And hey, Bruce! Oh my gosh! Can we all say hi to Bruce in the chat? It's been ages since I've seen you. Good to see you, Bruce. Happy New Year. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad I saw your name before the end of the show so I could give you a bit of a shout out. Eggberry, you're here too. Pandanus Rex, thank you for stopping by. And I think I said Michael mistaken in Neoripshaft. So, but yeah, Bruce, really happy New Year. Good to see you. Glad I tuned in early for you. Yeah, please, if you're up, please stop by. Otherwise, you can always check it out afterwards if you don't mind my stumbling and bumbling. And I will work really, really hard to get my setup right next time. All right, y'all, if you want to watch me play some D&D, I'll be over on the Twitches with my mates over at Rolling Left later tonight in about 5 hours. Otherwise, I can see you on the happy hour next Friday, but if none of those work out, or if all of those work out, you can always come back here. Yeah, I appreciate you, Bruce. Come back here next Sunday, and I will try to give more advance notice, like a day or two in advance of what the topic is going to be. It really lowers my stress levels on the day to not have to do the thumbnail at 10:30 in the morning over coffee. So I'm going to try to be better about that in 2022. I've got to practice saying that. All right, y'all. Until next time, I've been Kristi. You've been awesome. Thank you for your time and attention. Stay healthy, stay well, wherever and whenever you are. All right. Now I have to do that thing where I hit end stream. Found it. Let me hit that button. And then I'm going to say goodbye one more time. See ya.